So again, this is Mike Caldwell from the Greater Des Moines Partnership. Welcome everybody to this virtual conference. I want to let you know to please mute your microphone, turn off your video to save bandwidth, and open the chat window so that you can share questions with Kaylee. This is an interactive session, but if you can imagine having 60 people at once talking on a video conference, it wouldn't work very well. If your question's short and easy, just go ahead and type the question in. If your question is a little bit longer, just say, hey, Kaylee, can I ask you a question? And she can stop. Kaylee, I'm assuming you're gonna be able to see the chat window. So Kaylee will be able to stop at the appropriate time and ask you to unmute your mic and go ahead and ask your question. And recording this will be available after the conference is over. I will go ahead and get that out to everybody. So with that, Barb, I might ask you to shut your video off if you can, just to save bandwidth. It's amazing the amount of control you get when you're running a Zoom call. So Kaylee, I think we're ready to go. Why don't you go ahead and share your screen? I'm going to mute myself and you can begin.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for having me today. This is really exciting. I've given a presentation to a room of this volume, but I've never actually done it remotely. So this is like, I'm a little nervous, so bear with me for a minute. Luckily, our topic today is very exciting and I can't wait to walk through everything with you. We're going to talk about regulated insurance securities and how to handle market demand during a crisis. So the topics for the day will include securities and payments, a Rolodex of all insurance providers in the state. And while for many of you this might feel a little boring, we do think it's the best use of your time. Now, there's no reason for you to need to pay attention, of course, but there will be a quick quiz about halfway through just to make sure everybody's picking up on everything I'm laying down. And then finally, you guys, we're going to dive into claims and property values. So again, very hot topic today. Can't wait to dive in. Should be really interesting and very exciting. I know you're all muted. I'm going to hear raucous applause. April Fools. We're actually going to talk about fun stuff today. So I saw the chat was blowing up. I haven't looked at it yet. Sorry, Mike, if I just gave you a heart attack. We're not going to talk about insurance. We're going to talk about marketing, messaging, generating demand, and sales. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. That's my 4 p.m. presentation. Here we are. This is the real one. I'm Kaylee, and I'm with VolunteerLocal. And I hope everybody got a little laugh out of that. I just think we could all use some laughter. And today, fun fact, is actually my favorite holiday of the whole year. So VolunteerLocal, quick context, because I do want you all to understand what our product is to help shape and put some context behind what we'll talk about today. VolunteerLocal is a volunteer scheduling software for events all over the world that need to recruit volunteers. So we're a software, a SaaS product on the internet. You know, we don't have a physical thing that we sell, just like a software that you can buy and use online. We do have a pretty well-defined sales process and funnel. So today we're going to talk about the marketing, the messaging, and then all of this is very closely tied to our sales funnel. So hopefully that's valuable for everyone on the call to understand the broader, more holistic picture of how these things fit together. Now, I've said this before, and I know some people in the room probably heard me say this before. I'm not a marketer, but I really love to solve problems. So I thought I would frame my presentation today in the context of the problems that we identified and then how we solved them as we went forward. So I'm going to try and tell a story today. Oh, I just threw another April Fool's slide in there. This is not a joke. This is really what we're talking about. So our sales funnel at VolunteerLocal is really simple, and I'm sure some of you on the phone have a little bit more of a complex approach to getting people to understand what your product is, generating demand for the product, and then convincing them, of course, to buy it. Ours is really straightforward. So we have a number of demo requests every month, or these are inbound leads, and we want those to funnel into sales calls. So we actually want to get on the phone with people and show them the product. And then, of course, a number of those would become paying clients. That's the ultimate goal, is to convert as many potential buyers into real customers as we can. Now, something for you to understand as we dive in today, the goal of every stage of our sales funnel is just to get to the next stage. So when I talk to you about the messaging that we're doing and some of the marketing tactics that we've employed, I think it's important to just state the goal is not to get a potential buyer to buy the product. The goal is to get a potential buyer on the phone or to submit a demo request. And then once we actually get them on that live demo, then the goal is to get them to pick a plan, and then we want to, of course, close them. So it might feel like we're taking baby steps, but remember that you're going to see the highest conversion rate ultimately top to bottom when you break it down into the unique steps that you know your buyers need to fulfill in order to eventually get to that point where they are a true blue customer. We have two types of leads. We have inbound leads and we have outbound leads. So this might be pretty elementary for some of you on the call. Inbound leads are people who raise their hand and say, I want to learn more about your product, Volunteer Local, and they fill out a demo request form online or otherwise reach out to us somehow. Outbound leads are people that we're going out and getting. So we've identified who we think we serve best, and we've put together all kinds of messaging materials that we push out there to try to get people to be aware of our products. So we're generating demand with outbound and we're converting demand with inbound. Now, inbound and outbound leads have totally different sales funnels. So you'll notice we've got inbound as demo request, a sales call, and then they're closed. Outbound, the first thing we want to do is make contact. And for anyone who's done outbound work on the phone, you probably know this already. It's a lot of grind. You're going to be sending a lot of emails and doing a lot of cold calling just to get someone in that first column of contact made. Somebody replied to me. I made contact. Then we want to get them on the phone for a demo, and then we want to close the deal. Even the demo is completely different when you're looking at an inbound lead versus an outbound lead. So we'll dive into this a little more as we go along. We're going to start with inbound. So the first problem that we identified in tracking or with the inbound leads was that we weren't doing a great job of tracking the lead channels. So I've gone ahead and listed some of our inbound lead channels here, and I'm happy to chat with any of you about this offline if you're curious to learn more. Capterra is a website that we advertise on. It's sort of like an online shopping place for software solutions. Software Advice is a similar product sort of service. They actually help people find our product when they come to them looking for a volunteer solution. We have partner referrals, we have customer referrals. I don't know if Tori from Rocket Referrals is on the call. I watched his webinar yesterday. We actually use Rocket Referrals to help generate more customer referrals, and they have a really high conversion rate for us. So that's been a successful campaign with them. And then of course, Facebook and Google. So the solution that we identified to help us better and more accurately track our lead channels was to create unique landing pages through a service called Unbound. And then we wanted to link those landing pages to Pipedrive with a special tag so we knew where the lead came from. Now, this matters because the messaging is completely different depending on the lead channel and the source, and the landing pages were even uniquely catered for each category. So if we take a look at Capterra, I told you it's an online shopping place for people to find software. Well, we have about, I think, 5 listings in Capterra. We're listed under festival management software, event check-in software, church management software, and of course, volunteer management software. So the landing pages are, like I said, they're catered to each vertical or each vertical that we're identifying, each lead channel. And just some things we've learned about the landing pages that have helped to make them more effective and convert more people. First, you want to come up with custom background images that reflect who that customer is. So for a festival, we've got festival volunteers. For a marathon, we've got runners in the background of the landing pages. Now, one thing to be aware of, and I'm just going to kind of sprinkle some stuff throughout, with everything going on right now, we've actually updated a lot of those background images so that they do not show people gathering. And I know that feels like a small thing to do, but I think that it sets the tone appropriately, and I think that your marketing and messaging should always reflect the moment that we're in. So, so we actually went ahead and made that change across the board. And then you want to identify the key features that are going to be valuable for each vertical. So take some time to understand who are the people coming from each different marketing channel and what are they going to be drawn to. For example, we know that festivals really like the check-in and check-out tool because they have a lot of volunteers who sign up, get the free ticket to go to the festival, and then don't actually check into their shifts to volunteer. And so they really want a way to keep volunteers accountable. Now, for a marathon, that's not quite the same priority. Marathons and other endurance events, they really like the password protect feature because they're typically recruiting a lot of groups to come and volunteer together at each of their unique aid stations. So when we first set out to do these catered landing pages with unique messaging, I identified what it was that each customer really wanted, and then we tried to reflect that in the landing page itself. You want to put in your customer logos, you want to have testimonials, and one call to action. So if it's all right, Mike, I actually have a link to a landing page that I thought I would show everyone today. Okay, so here's our most successful landing page. This one has the highest conversion rate. And again, you can see this background image. This is an old one, so we are still seeing people gathered here. But when I click to get a free demo, this opens up to that light box where people can submit their information. Now, you'll note that on this landing page, this is the only call to action all the way throughout. And we've kind of sprinkled this get a free demo button everywhere in the page. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation. I just got a notification that my internet connection is unstable. Am I still with you? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, hang on, I think.
Haley, you sound great. Keep going.
Okay, all right, thank you. Perfect, all right, cool. Oh, a lot of people replied, thank you. Okay, so, so then we had our next problem, which was a leaky funnel. So I'll share with you guys some metrics. Only about half of the demo requests that we were receiving would actually schedule a call with our sales rep. So we knew that there was an opportunity here to get more of those people who raised their hands to actually get on the phone with our salespeople. So I'm a very visual person, and as a reminder, the goal of every stage of the funnel is just to get to the next stage. So we have these demo requests that are coming in, and very few of them were actually scheduling, well, not very few, but just half of them were actually scheduling a call with our sales team. So the solution was to create some unique messaging in, we use a system called MixMax. So I promised Mike that we'd go through some of the technology and the stack that we're using at VolunteerLocal. I've already mentioned that we use Unbounce for landing pages, Zapier to link Unbounce with our Pipedrive, or with our CRM called Pipedrive. This is the fourth technology piece to that stack, and it's a Gmail integration called MixMax. Now, the cool thing about MixMax is that it allows us to create what they call sequences. And these are a series of emails that are sent to the prospect until they either reply or pick a time for a demo. So we do not stop contacting them. And in my opinion, we have every right to not stop contacting them because they're the ones that actually submitted that demo request. So we know that they have an interest in our product. Now, before we started using sequences, I would just, manually send an email to a demo request when it came through. And so the problem with that approach was even if I sent 1 or 2 emails, it was overwhelmingly difficult for me to go back and try to re-email all these people who had submitted a demo request from the week prior or 2 weeks prior. So this was a compounding issue. Every day that went by, we would have more demo requests that came through, and I couldn't keep up. So automating these sequences really helped us to make sure that we weren't just losing leads. Now, one thing we learned as we were experimenting with the number of stages and the content within each stage, it used to be, I think it was only 9 stages long, or maybe 8. And of course, you guys, we saw a drop-off, between 7, 8, and 9, we just saw this drop-off of people who never would reply and would never click on that link. So we went ahead and bumped it up to 12 stages. And what we saw was actually an increase from stage 10 and 11. So a little bump at the end there when we just did that 10th and that 11th email. And then by stage 12, of course, we ended the sequence. So I will share with Mike the actual content of the messages. Each email has kind of a unique directive, but ultimately the goal is to get them to click the link to schedule their demo. So the content, we spent a long time and we experimented with a lot of different types of content, and I'll share that a little more about that with you now. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat too. Okay, so Brad actually wrote, Kaylee, do any of your landing pages have pricing info? No, They don't. There's no link to the homepage from the landing page. That's intentional. We want to keep them siloed in that landing page. Also, what things have you experimented with on the landing pages that didn't work? Oh, yeah, sure. The landing pages, the number one thing we experimented with that did not work, I used to have really short landing pages. I thought that a long landing page that would require them to scroll for a long time would actually be a detriment. And I was completely wrong. The longer the landing page, the higher the conversion rate. So earlier when I talked about treating each horizontal section as kind of its own like area, I think it's really valuable, especially if you're on a phone. It's easy to scroll through and it kind of like each section has its own unique flavor and it keeps it really interesting. And then by sprinkling that get a live demo button, that call to action at the bottom of each section, we were able to maximize, like if this section worked for person A, but then this section really did it for person B, the call to action was never missing from that unique part of the landing page. So length, I think, was an important assumption that we made that was wrong, and we learned that the longer it was, the higher the conversion rate. Thanks, Brad. Okay, so as you guys can probably imagine, at this point, we had a bottleneck because we were going live with this sequence, this 12 email sequence, and it was totally working. We had all these people that had requested a demo, and even if they didn't respond until the 10th or 11th email, eventually most of them were getting on the phone with us for a demo. But we were really drowning. I tried hiring full-time employees. I tried hiring part-time employees to give demos. For a minute, we tried a commission-only contractor. And then the types of employees we hired to give demos, I thought we did a really good job of trying to go for go for everything. So we did a true blue sales rep who had like a proven history of converting. We did recent grads, so I figured if I hired someone young and green, I wouldn't have to help them unlearn any bad habits. And we even hired a comedian, and he did great. He really burned bright for a minute there. People loved his demos. They were so funny. But all of them burned out. It's really hard. If you guys, again, if anyone on the call has given demo after demo, it's tough work to just do over and over again. So the solution was just to distribute the work. So instead of wearing the stiletto heels, we switched over to the 90s chunky heel, and we distributed the weight a little more evenly. And we developed a contract team of people that we hired from all over the country. They were not salespeople. They were teachers and therapists and stay-at-home moms and musicians. We paid them $50 per demo, and then we paid them 10% commission if the deal closed. So the $50 per demo compensation was paid to them no matter what, whether or not they actually closed the deal. We want to show them that we value their time. Usually the demo team members could claim 2 to 5 demos per week. The deals were claimed on a first come, first served basis. So a lot like Uber or Lyft, when a demo request came through from a prospect, meaning they picked a time through that email sequence, all of our demo team members would get the buzz on their phone, and then whoever claimed that deal could have it. I think our big value proposition with the demo team was the remote work, so the opportunity to just do their jobs from anywhere. They could set up their laptop in a coffee shop and lead a demo there. And then flexible hours, so the demo team could scale up or down. If we had someone who needed to take a couple of weeks off, no problem. I did require everyone to claim at least 4 demos a month. Otherwise, hopefully you would all agree that this is fair. People tend to forget. They tend to forget what they learned. So we need to make sure that they're still giving demos, but they could really scale up and do 10 in a week, or they could scale down and do none that week, and that was all right with me. So here they are. This is the demo team. Now we've had some churn, so not everyone here is still on the demo team. But it was a really fun experience for everyone involved, and it totally worked. All of them were really passionate about the product and were able to claim demos however they liked. I've gotten this question before, and just in the interest of sharing our technology stack, the product we used so that the demo team members could schedule or claim their demos was VolunteerLocal. We just drank our own Kool-Aid and created a little landing page with prospects and then times, and then the demo team members would just claim whatever they want, put in their email, and then click claim, and then they would get an email with a link to their schedule so they could see what they had coming up that week. That's our product. That's VolunteerLocal. So, okay, we've identified, how we're going to get people to convert. We identified how we're going to accommodate the deals as they come through, so accommodate or meet that lead flow. But then we had another problem, and that was lead quality. So paying $50 per demo is all fun and great until you start realizing that a lot of the demos are not a good fit. And a lot of them were no-shows, so they're not very serious buyers. And I did create a compensation structure for the demo team in the event of a no-show, as long as they completed a series of steps. So they had to try calling the lead directly, they had to try emailing the lead directly, and if both of those attempts failed, then they could sign off from the Zoom hangout and go about their lives. And I wanted to pay them for the fact that they held that hour for that prospect. So the solution was to integrate Explore calls. And I'm going to shift back now into talking about that generating demand and messaging. I know we've talked a lot about the funnel here. The hypothesis here was that maybe if we did a better job of understanding who the person was, who the prospect was, that we could convert them more successfully to a call or vet them out so that they don't get in front of a demo team member if they're not really looking for a solution like ours. So our call to action on those landing pages and in the email sequence, that 12 drip sequence that I showed you, it changed. It was no longer get your demo. It was click here to schedule an Explore call. Now, the interesting thing about this ask was that the duration of the call went from 60 minutes, a full hour, to 15 minutes. And again, we thought, gosh, a lot more people are probably likely to claim a 15-minute time than a 60-minute time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if someone said, oh, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I'd be a lot more likely to say yes than can I have an hour of your time to show you our product? So that was the hypothesis. We also increased the compensation for the demo team. So we said to them, all right, you all are now going to take Explore calls. So you're not really going to be taking demos, you're going to be taking Explore calls. We're going to pay you $15 if the Explore call does not result in a demo. Now, the logic behind this, from my perspective, was I'm saving 50 and I'm paying 15. So we're hopefully vetting some deals out of the funnel. But if they did schedule the demo, we increased the compensation overall. So we paid the demo team member $25 for doing a 15-minute Explore call, and then we paid them the $50 that they would typically get for the demo. So we made a gamble here. And the gamble was that there would be fewer demos, but that they would be higher quality demos and would be more likely to convert. You guys, this did not work. It did not work at all. And, in the words of that great country singer, I can't remember his name, but anyway, you got to know when to fold them. So here's what we saw. We did kind of an A/B test here. We started with the simple call to action of schedule a live demo, and we saw a 65% conversion rate with that overall, all in. But then when we switched to, hey, click here to schedule a 15-minute Explore call, our conversion rate cut in half. So we actually had a 32% conversion rate. And this was so confusing to me. Kenny Rogers, thank you, Ryan. I've had that song stuck in my head for days. Oh, hang on, I think every time I look into the chat, I think it like clicks away. Okay, so here are our conversion rates, but I wanna dig in here. So I wanna talk to you about messaging, and I wanna talk to you about how we catered the content and the steps in the process that we went through. And then ultimately, I'm gonna share with you what truly worked. So we wanted to experiment by channel. We said, okay, it clearly did not work to just say to everyone, click here to schedule a 15-minute Explore call. We don't know why yet, but it didn't work. Let's dig in. So I mentioned to you before that we have these different channels where we get leads. One of those channels is Capterra. So what we did was we broke down each channel, and we actually did this on a whiteboard. I wrote down Capterra, I wrote down software advice, Google, Facebook. Okay, what's the experience like for that buyer? So in Capterra, in this example, they see our profile. So they type in volunteer management software, they see our profile, they click on it, it takes them to our landing page. Now, as Brad mentioned, we don't send them to our homepage. We don't let them go to our website. We just want to keep them on that landing page to convert or not convert. And then when they convert, for the few that do, they receive an email sequence from me with a link to schedule their call via the MixMax calendar. Okay, software advice. What's that flow like? All right, so software advice, the customer Contacts, they fill out a form on software advice that's like, what are you looking for? You know, what is your timeline? What is your budget? And then software advice calls these people. So what we realized was software advice, they've already had an Explore call from a rep at software advice. And then they get an email from us that's like, click here to schedule an Explore call. That probably feels pretty redundant. And it probably looks like we don't, you know, have our things together because we're making them do this step twice. Feels unnecessary. Okay, then we thought about Google Ads, and we did this for every channel, so I'm not going to make you go through everyone, but we'll go through 3. So with Google Ads, okay, so they Google, you know, how do I manage my volunteers or whatever the keyword might be. They find our ad, they click on it, it takes them to, again, our landing page. Now, the problem with Google is that we couldn't really cater the landing page they go to based on, I mean, we could do it based on keywords, but we weren't able to really get that granular in what landing page they saw. So all that work that we did to make sure that the messaging on the landing page was appropriately catered to the person on the other side of the screen, we didn't really have that ability to do that. And so with Google, you know, we really struggled with these leads that came through. So we did an ABC test, and I mean, we really nerded out. And I still have a hard time explaining to people. I feel like it got so complicated at one point that I have a hard time explaining it, but I'm gonna do my best here. So sequence A, the proposition or the call to action was click here to schedule a 60-minute demo. This was our control, and we did this for all channels. And then sequence B, so it would kind of like rotate through. Sequence B was, again, the Explore call, click here to schedule a 15-minute call. Now we cut software advice out of that. So we did Capterra, referrals, the website, partner leads, So these, again, there are a lot of channels that we had deals coming in. And then sequence C, this was the fun one. I was just literally laying in bed one night and I was like, why are these people submitting a demo request and they're not getting a demo? And gosh, who was it? It was Matt Ostanek from FunnelWise. And he said to me, Kaylee, maybe the word demo doesn't mean what you think it means. And that like blew my mind because I've always thought of a demo as like a walkthrough of our product. But after he said that to me, I thought, well, maybe when people think demo, what they think is a trial account or a pre-recorded video. So sequence C was what I call the self-serve option. We didn't even offer to get on the phone with them. We just said, click here, watch the video, then click here and create your VolunteerLocal account. Like, good luck. And again, we did this, we had it kind of like round robin through all channels. So here's what we learned, everyone. Sequence A was the winner, always, every time. Sequence B, you know, was not the winner, clearly. Even after we cut out software advice, we still saw about a half of the conversion rate we'd seen before. And sequence C was the absolute worst failure. I think we had less than a 10% conversion rate. And you guys, I still think about those leads, still think about them when I'm laying in bed. Like they wanted a solution and they didn't get one. Instead, they got a link to a YouTube video. So the key takeaway, keep it simple. The quick chat or the Explore call, I think it felt too casual for people. So, you know, they would like do this work and fill out this very nice landing page, and then they would get an email that's like, let's just chat for 15 minutes. And I don't think that it was reflective of like their need. I don't think it felt serious enough. And some of you might have arrived at number 2 already. It took me way too long. I think we were putting up unnecessary barriers and we made it too hard. So imagine you click that link, you get to that landing page, you fill out that form, then you get an email which tells you to click yet another link to then pick a time for a demo. It's just, it's too much, it's too many steps. And then the third key takeaway was this idea of, oh, they just want a pre-recorded video, or, oh, you know, they want to just create their account. They don't want to talk to a human. I do think that there is room for automation. There has to be room for those kind of organic sales, but I think too much automation can actually work against you. So here's the solution that actually worked, a human. Her name is Emily Bell, and we hired Emily to be what I like to call our lead fairy. Emily's job all day long is to call the leads. So when they submit a demo request, if you were to do it today, you would get a call from Emily about 10 minutes, within 10 minutes of that submission. And she would ask you the Explore call questions that we had previously told the demo team that they would be doing. So we needed to commit a resource, a consistent resource to do these Explore calls. And then Emily schedules the demo on the phone with the prospect. It's a lot harder to turn down a demo when you're on the phone with someone, especially someone like Emily, who has that je ne sais pas. You know, she's really good at talking to people on the phone. And because all she does are explore calls, she's gotten very good at explore calls, and she's gotten very good at vetting out leads. So we just needed to commit one person to getting really good at it. And the demo team they're really good at giving demos. And people should only get a demo team member. They should only get on a calendar with a demo team member if they are a serious buyer. And that's Emily Schaub. She is the commander at the post. She's Peter at the gates. Now, Emily's compensation, I wanted it to be in line with the demo team. And I think we've been pretty creative so far about how we pay people. And Emily is no exception. I told Emily when I hired her, I'm not going to pay you for calls that don't get answered. So if you connect with a human, we'll pay you for that. But if you call and leave a voicemail, I'm not going to pay you for that. And the reason I did this was very intentional. The reason I did this is I wanted to give Emily every reason to keep calling. So Emily calls them, she leaves a voicemail, she triggers the 12 email sequence. So I want you all to know we're still using the email sequence, but something about having a human call and then getting that voicemail, we've seen an increase, and even more of an increase in our conversion rate for people who click their time on that email sequence. Because I don't feel like it doesn't feel like a computer did it. It feels like Emily did it, and the emails come from Emily. So Emily is really this like human that they're interacting with every step of the way. And if she calls them 2 or even 3 times and leaves 2 or even 3 voicemails, we're definitely gonna see a higher conversion rate with that individual than what we were doing before, which was, you know, 1 email, maybe a phone call, and then after that we kind of let them go. And people are busy. I don't, just for the record, I don't hold it against anyone that they would submit a demo request and not pick a time right away. I'm busy. I'm sure I've done it before. So we just want to stay top of mind. We're doing them a favor. And then we pay for Emily's phone bill, and I do pay her a small commission on total sales every month because I want her to feel like she's a part of the team and the work she's doing does contribute to the bottom of our funnel. So we experimented with many different types of messaging, and ultimately the one that truly worked the best was a combination of a human dedicated to making those phone calls right away and messaging in our MixMax sequences. And of course, we have different sequences per vertical. So the messaging is unique as well, depending on where the client came from and who they are. We pay Emily 5% commission of total sales at the end of each month. It's most of her paycheck. Thanks, Anthony. Here's what it looks like in Pipedrive. I just wanted to give you guys an idea. The Explorer questions that we're asking are pretty, like, I'm sure you could find them on a Google search, like what's your time frame? Do you have price expectations? Who else are you looking at? Why are you shopping? What are the features you need? And now part of Emily's job, and I think this is important to mention, part of Emily's job is learning how to translate what the client is struggling with, their challenges, into solutions that we can offer. So Emily, it's not like I didn't train Emily on the product. She needed to know the product. She needs to be really good at the product so that she can interpret customer demand into actual features that we can sell. And hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But being in that frontline position, she's got to be really good at communicating and really good at speaking the customer's language. Okay, you guys, so we're feeling pretty good, but we found another leak. A lot of our deals weren't closing, and this is a pretty bad leak, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this before, but it's this constant feeling of, we're giving all these demos, we've got the demo team in place, or, you might have your salespeople rocking and rolling, but like, why aren't these deals closing? And when should they be closing? And what are the things that are preventing them from buying the product? Like, what are their objections? So again, I'm a visual person, so I just wanted to show you, the next phase here that we're trying to get to is the sales call to the actual client paying for the product. The demo is completed, now what do we do? So the solution that we created was, again, unique messaging depending on the client and where they were in the funnel. So this is another technology solution that I'm gonna throw out there, part of our stack. We use an email campaign tool called ActiveCampaign. And ActiveCampaign is actually a company based right here in the Midwest out of Chicago, and they have a very powerful product that allows us to trigger emails to our prospects based on the actions they take within their VolunteerLocal accounts. Now, I think an important detail here is that after the demo, every prospect is given access to a free trial account. And the goal of that free trial period is engagement. We want them to log back in. We want them to explore. We want them to create jobs and build shifts and hopefully, you know, recruit a couple of volunteers, because the more they invest in learning the product, the more likely they are to buy it down the road. So I'm going to show you just a few of what these look like. I don't really think they're anything super fancy. I just put them together. ActiveCampaign is cool though. It has like a, you know, an editor that you can go in and you can try to make it beautiful. And again, the goal is engagement. So log in to get started. Most of these have like a login button at the bottom, like create a job, create a shift, upload your waiver. You can't really tell here, but the newsletters have GIFs embedded in them. So these areas where you're seeing a screenshot of VolunteerLocal is actually a GIF. So you can see like a job getting created and then it gets added on the right. So we thought that was I thought that was kind of cool. Really excited when I figured out how to do that. And you know, it really helped. I think people were forgetting about the product in a weird way. Like they would do the demo, they were excited about it, and then they would forget. So this drip campaign, again, it's kind of catered based on what actions they take, but ultimately the goal is to get them re-engaged with the product, reminded about the product, and they told us their timeline. So we know when that free trial ends is when we should be reaching out and saying, hey, you know, your trial's over. Would you like us to extend the trial, or are you ready to buy? The next solution that we created, oh sure, question here from Kim. Is one of the actions based on the product does not engage? Yeah, so I'm gonna go back here for a minute. Yes, we do have a whole like line in this funnel where if they don't ever log in, they're not gonna stop receiving these emails. So it's just more of an informational, like, did you know you can do this? Did you know you can do that? And then we have triggers that can branch off from there depending on if they do log in and the actions that they take. Yeah, thanks, Kim. So the next solution that we came up with, you know, I thought the team was giving a pretty gosh darn good demo, but the customer didn't have anything to hold on to take back to their team. Now, the customer we're demoing is not always the decision maker. The volunteer coordinator, you know, they're not always the ones who manage the budget, but they're the ones who feel the pain of not having a software to help them with their database. So we knew that we needed to give something to our volunteer coordinator, our champion, to take upstairs and give to her boss or his boss and you know, close the deal. So I actually looked up templates in Word and I literally typed in quote template, and wouldn't you know it, the template had our seafoam green already in there, and I thought it's meant to be. So I instructed the demo team, after every demo, you've got to go in, you have to make a quote, and then you got to send it, convert it to a PDF and send it to your prospect. And they did, and we saw an increase in our conversion rates. Now, today, this has really evolved because the proposal builder, the original quote, we wanted it to be actionable. We wanted it to be a proposal that the customer could actually accept or deny. So we rolled out a true proposal builder just this year, and I have a proposal here that I'd like to show you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it and we'll open it up. Oh shoot, this one, it expired. That's okay. So proposals have an expiration date, and that's actually a good thing to point out. We need to create that urgency. You know, they only have a free trial for so long. Now we're experimenting with not giving anyone a free trial, which definitely will change things as we go forward. But you know, the customer needs to know, like, this proposal will expire on X day. And then at the bottom, they can either accept the proposal, and that will take them to the payment page, or they can deny the proposal, and we have a feedback box. We want their objections. We're hungry for objections. So if they don't buy the product, we want to know why. That really helps us to get better at pitching our product. Okay, so the last sort of update that we made, and I just want to do a quick time check here to make sure we're doing okay. Perfect. So the last sort of update we made was the sales calls themselves. We wanted to make sure that the way we were giving the demo was actually reflective of what the customer needed and wanted to hear. I hired a consultant to help me. So some of you in the room might know Steve Will. He used to work with Pitchly. He was with FunnelWise for a while with Matt Ostanek. Now he's with a company called Sterling Computers. And Steve worked with our team, and he coached me directly on how to really just improve the call itself. So how do we improve our messaging when we're actually on the sales call? Steve listened to, I want to say probably close to 50 live demos. And then he kind of came back to me and was like, here are the things you need to do. So first, we purchased a product called gong.io. And we transitioned everyone from join.me, which was the screen share solution we were using prior, to Zoom. And thank God we did that, especially with everything going on today. You know, Zoom is definitely the superior product. Now, gong.io, for those of you in the room who are not familiar, Gong allows you to record every sales call, and then Gong uses AI to interpret how the calls are going. So I can log in and I can see of my demo team, who's the most patient, who's the least patient, who interrupts the prospects, who has the longest monologue, and who lets the customer have the longest monologue. So, you know, this tool enabled us to do all kinds of incredible things with the demo team without needing to listen to every single demo all the way through one at a time, which I don't have the time to do. And I'm sure none of you have really the time to do. So it definitely allowed me to coach them more effectively without giving up too much of my time. Here's what we learned. Our demos were highly educational, meaning we were showing them how to use the product, like almost like an onboarding call, but we weren't really pitching the value of the product. It kind of goes back to this idea of features, benefits, advantages. We were talking features, we were bleeding into benefits, we were not talking advantages. We weren't helping the customer see the bigger vision of buy our product, improve your volunteer program, improve your communications, make your event more successful, you know, increase revenue, ticket sales, keep people coming back, increase retention. We weren't really talking about that down the road picture. We were just talking about the filter on the communication tool that allows you to send an email to only people who didn't sign the waiver. Great feature, not an advantage. So the pendulum swung all the way over, and I did a competition with the demo team. And I told them, each of them, I wanted them to pick one deal that they were going to intentionally throw away. So you might be thinking, like, why would you do that? I used to be in theater, if you can't tell from my incredible joke this morning. And in theater, we had this problem, in Reader's Theater, we had this problem where I think all of us, it was my freshman year in high school, and all of us were so timid, and we were like afraid to really lean into our characters and like give this a performance about Tiananmen Square in China. And so our theater coaches were like, we want you to overact. We just want you to blow it up and overact so bad and like just make it outrageous. And we had so much fun doing it. And in that instance, we swung the pendulum all the way over to overacting. And then we were able to come back to a new normal that was better than what we had before, which was a way too timid cast, you know, of performers. So I applied that logic with my demo team, and I said, throw away a deal, pick a deal, throw it away. And how you're going to throw it away is you are going to ask so many questions on that call that the prospect should get mad at you. You should ask so many questions that they literally are frustrated and they're like, you know, let's just get to the demo. Like, stop asking me stuff and show me or tell me about your product. You guys, the limit did not exist. They did not actually have a person get mad at them. I'm not going to say that they won every deal, because they didn't, and they wouldn't have either way. But you know, no prospect, and I actually listened to these calls, and there was not one prospect that said, why are you asking me so many questions? And I mean, the demo team members asked a lot of questions. So I told them that I would pay them a $500 bonus, whoever asked the most. And Gong could tell me. I just had a little dashboard metric in Gong. In the next week, who asked the most questions and on what sales call? John won it. He asked 48 questions in I think it was a 60-minute call. Might have been less than an hour. And John, not only did he win the bonus, his deal closed. So we learned an important lesson as a group, that questions are so important. And it helped us to drive a more value-based demo instead of an educational how-to demo. We completely revamped our pitch. We built a new deck. So now, instead of actually walking through a VolunteerLocal account, the demo team is like showing a deck. And the deck talks about how we help to make the event more successful, how we increase revenue. So, the deck is really focused on advantages with screenshots of the product. And then we're experimenting with whether or not to give an actual free trial to everyone. Okay, so we want to talk about generating demand, and I realize that a lot of my presentation has been very focused on inbound leads because that's been our focus for the last year. But I'm very comfortable sharing with all of you that we kind of built this company on outbound work. So for the first 3 to 4 years of my time at VolunteerLocal, every week I would send between 100 and 150 cold emails. I would do probably 30 to 40 like true cold calls, and that's how we got the demos that we got until we had a budget to actually invest in some marketing and do some intelligence behind it and invest in the technology stack that I shared with you today. Really, it was all about outbound demand. What's interesting, and again, I'm going to be very open with all of you, what's really interesting about what's happening right now is that we are kind of getting back to our roots a little bit, and we're getting back into doing more outbound work because, as you can probably imagine, a lot of our customers' events have been canceled. So we're reining in that marketing budget, and I've instructed our entire demo team, we're going to switch to outbound, and I've changed their compensation structure. I'm changing their goals. So, instead of claiming demos, they're now trying to schedule demos, which is a whole different ballgame, and we're very early on in this experiment, so we'll see how it goes. But I want to share with you what we're doing and how it pulls from what we did before, what we know works, and then how we're applying it to our new model here with the demo team. So when you're doing outbound demand, when you're generating outbound demand, it's important to identify your verticals. Now, you probably know who your customer is. If you don't, you should definitely get on that. And then if you're doing outbound work, it's always worth it to think long and hard about potentially some new outbound channels that you could explore. So for example, in light of everything going on, we've identified that our product can be used by schools to help teachers schedule students into their online or Zoom classes. So it's a very relevant opportunity for the moment, and it's we're doing everything we can to validate that the actual pitch of the product will work. Okay, then what you want to do is create cold calling scripts and templates, and these templates should be catered, of course, by vertical or by industry. So if you've identified 3 core types of customers you serve, you should not be sending the same cold email to all 3 of them. It should be customized. Anytime you can, when you're doing outbound work, you want to show versus tell. So for us, that means creating a sample sign-up page that looks like what a teacher might create if she or he were to use VolunteerLocal to schedule students into one-on-ones, small group or large group sessions online. And then we embed that link to that sign up page in the email. So we can tell them about our product, but we can also show them the product. And some people like to just be able to see it. Okay, the sales pitch is, and it has to be completely different when you're talking to an outbound lead. So what we know, the most basic premise is that velocity is key. When someone raises their hand and they ask us for a demo, they're willing to give us 45 minutes to an hour of their time. When we go out and we try to get people to get on the phone with us for a demo, they're willing to give us 15, maximum 30 minutes. So adding velocity to your pitch is critical when you're doing outbound work. You cannot take up too much of their time. You will lose their attention very quickly. They didn't ask for this. They didn't need it. Maybe they don't know that they need it. You might know that they need it, but you only have, what do they say, like in college at the bar, you've got $20 and 30 seconds to impress the girl. You've got 15 minutes and maybe a screen share to impress a prospect. Don't waste it. And then just like a little anecdote, I've increased our all hands meetings with the demo team. We used to do 1 per week. We now do 2 per week because this stuff is really hard. And like that feeling of togetherness and belonging, and we're all in this like working together. I think it really helps. There's nothing worse than doing cold outbound work all by yourself and feeling like you're on an island. Okay, and then I've learned a couple of lessons in the last week and a half, last 2 weeks. So in times of crisis, it is easy to make really big, bold decisions, but you want to rein that in a little bit with some of what you know based on all your experience working in business. So what I mean by that, be wary of making big changes to your pricing. You have to think about your current customers, and you don't want to shake them. You know, you don't want to create some unexpected weirdness where suddenly your product is like 50% off, and yeah, it might feel good to throw that out there, but it can create and sow confusion with your current customer base, and you don't want to lose their trust, and you don't want to lose their confidence. So just be wary of any big changes to your pricing. Be wary of changes to the way you position your product. So, you know, it's easy to get caught up in the story of like, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and we think that that's going to help everyone right now in a pandemic, as an example. But you have to, again, think about how that will impact your other customers and how they're going to read that. So, you know, don't flip everything on its head and say, we're going to do this whole thing now, and we're not going to worry about these other people, because, you know, if retention is an important part of how you succeed as a business, you have to make sure that you're catering to that market as well. You don't want to leave your customers high and dry in this effort to go after this shiny new market opportunity. And then don't throw away everything you know about how to validate your product. So, you know, we have this hypothesis that maybe our product could be a good fit for teachers, but we're not just going to, you know, go down that path without taking the time to do our due diligence. So that means creating a survey and sending it to every school that uses VolunteerLocal today and asking them, do your teachers need this solution? Is it a problem that you're facing? And have you ever considered trying VolunteerLocal as a solution? And so it's been really interesting to see the feedback that we're getting. Some of the feedback validates it, some may not, and that's okay. But we're not going to, you know, throw away those steps that we know are important and work before we just dive in full bore on a brand new market opportunity. I think that's it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to open it up now. I think we have, perfect. We've got 5 to 10 minutes for questions, discussion. Oh, okay. Yep. Nope. Nothing in the chat so far. So I'll go ahead and open it up. What more can I tell you guys?
Well, Kaylee, while we're waiting for people to ask a few questions, I do want to thank everybody for attending today. This was outstanding, Kaylee. You did a wonderful job. So, and your internet hung in there perfectly. So no sound dropouts on my end. But I just want to let everybody know that we will be getting everything out to you. It'll probably take a day or two to get all this brought together. And but we'll get everything out to you, and we'll write a blog post on it and link it on our website partnership. There's been a lot of these. Oh, there you go. Got a question.
Cool. So Brad Dwyer wanted to know, because the decision maker is not always on the demo, do we ever give a second demo? Yes, we do. And the proposal is the vehicle that gets us on the phone with that executive director for the second demo. So it's been really helpful for us in moving the prospect along through the funnel. And it's not always one demo and done, especially when it's a higher dollar demo. We usually need to get more people on the call to get buy-in. What is your, Melissa wants to know, what does your marketing budget look like in regards to marketing funnels versus ads? And which social media channels do you find? Okay, yeah, so I'll go ahead and share our marketing budget. I'm comfortable with that. So we spend about $4 grand a month on marketing. We have found ads to be a lot less effective than listing on services like Capterra, where buyers are actively shopping. So, you know, I'm sure, Melissa, if you're a marketer, this is probably 101, but like go where they are, go where they're looking and where they're shopping. People do type in silly questions on Google all the time, but there are websites like Capterra. There's one, they're trying to get us to pay for it. G2 Crowd is a similar thing. What they do is they aggregate all these online solutions and then they stack them on top of each other, and they allow consumers to compare them without needing to get on a sales call. So those have definitely been the warmest leads for us and the most likely to convert. In social media, we've only tried Facebook. So I can't tell you which ones have been better or worse. We've only tried Facebook. Brad had a follow-up. what has been effective in converting the executive director versus the person who will actually be using the product? I have a great answer to this. The executive director is much more likely to buy an advantage. The volunteer coordinator is more likely to buy a feature. So when we're talking to the volunteer coordinator, while I don't want to dig in on every little minutia, every little feature of our product, we do need to tell them that there are these really great filters in the communication tool that allow them to email people without a waiver signature, right? That's important to the volunteer coordinator. But the executive director, all they want to know really is, will investing in this product help me to increase volunteer recruitment, help me to increase volunteer retention, and ultimately, will it keep my volunteer coordinator from quitting? So the executive director has these high-level goals, and we know volunteer coordinators tend to have a very high churn. So they tend to quit, you guys. It's a really hard job. So if by identifying what the executive director cares about and acknowledging that it can be completely different than what the volunteer coordinator cares about, we're able to cater our message a little differently on that second demo. Joe Sheridan wants to know, outside of increasing questions in the demo, what other aspects of the 1 hour demo did you track or tweak that had a positive or a negative result? Great question. Like I said, we changed, in addition to asking a lot of questions, we changed the format from a true software walkthrough to a slide deck. So it's now a static deck. And the deck begins with this idea that the world is changing and the volunteer coordinators of the world need to change with it. So we actually start our pitch with this very big vision that we paint, that volunteer expectations are completely different today than they were even 2 years ago. And I think we're trying to relate to our customer in the sense that they don't want to feel left behind. Then we talk about what are the challenges that we know volunteer coordinators are facing. And then the third slide is, what is the price of those challenges? So if one of the challenges that a volunteer coordinator has is getting their volunteers to come back year over year, the cost of that challenge is the time and money that the volunteer coordinator is investing in getting their volunteers out there to the world. So they're reaching out to more groups, they're reaching out to schools, they're paying for an ad on Facebook, whatever it might be, whatever it might take to get those shifts filled, versus just making the experience so good that people come back year over year is really the best way. So we identify the challenges, we quantify the challenges, and then we paint this very big picture in the presentation at the very beginning so that the customer, the prospect, can walk with us down this path of how can I make my event cutting edge? How can I make my volunteer program the best in my industry? Cool, thanks Kim. We'll definitely try LinkedIn. It's been on my radar for a while, but I haven't really had time to dig in on it, but I know that I've heard from other people that it's been an effective channel. Thank you.
All right, well, Kaylee, I think we're running out of questions at the perfect time. We're right here at the end of the hour. So thank you all for attending again. Kaylee, thank you so much for doing this, and I'll reach out to you separately to get some of this content we can share. We have a lot of other seminars on the partnership website, both scheduled going forward. We have remote selling on Friday. We got 2 more being scheduled for the next couple of weeks very soon. And all of the past content is available in our blog. So please take advantage of that. And everyone have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.